The giant space station called Nexus Prime floated in the darkness between the stars. It was bigger than most planets, with gleaming metal walls and thousands of windows that sparkled like diamonds. Inside its massive central chamber, 12 different alien species sat around a circular table that could hold a small city. Ambassador Jack Murphy walked slowly into the room, his black suit looking simple compared to the strange clothes and bodies of the aliens around him. Behind him came Colonel Lisa Hayes, a tall woman with sharp eyes who had fought in 3 wars, and Dr. Peter Stone, a quiet man who spent his life studying alien life forms. They were the only humans in a room full of creatures that looked like they came from nightmares and dreams. The talks had been going on for 3 months. 3 long, painful months of sitting in uncomfortable chairs while aliens told humans what they could and could not do. Jack felt tired in his bones. Every morning he woke up hoping today would be different, but it never was. The Zephyrians sat across from him, tall and thin like walking sticks, with skin that changed colors when they got angry. Their leader, High Counselor Vexithara, had been the worst of all. She spoke in a voice that sounded like music, but her words were always cold and mean. Next to her, the Crithari made clicking sounds with their mouths. They looked like giant bugs with too many arms and eyes that never seemed to blink. On the other side of the table, the luminary glowed like living light bulbs. They did not have bodies like humans did, just bright energy that floated in the air. When they were happy, they glowed warm yellow. When they were angry, they turned red like fire. Right now, they were definitely red. Jack looked at the papers in front of him. 3 months of work, and this is what the aliens wanted to give humans. 12 worlds. Just 12 small planets out of billions in the galaxy. No more colonies, no more exploring new places, no more dreams of finding new homes among the stars. The younger species must learn patience, Vexthara said, her voice filling the huge room. Humans have only been in space for a few hundred years. The Zephyrian Empire has existed for 50,000 years. We know what is best. Jack's hands tightened on his papers, but he kept his face calm. Lisa shifted in her chair beside him, and he could tell she wanted to say something that would probably start a fight. Dr. Stone just looked sad, like someone had told him his favorite pet had died. You speak of wisdom, Jack said carefully, but what you offer sounds more like fear. The clicking from the Crithari got louder and angrier. Their leader, Commander Zigzag, pointed one of his 4 arms at Jack. Fear? Humans are the ones who should fear. You spread across space like a disease, taking whatever you want. We explore, Jack replied. We build new homes. We make friends with people we meet. How is that wrong? Because you do not ask permission, Vexithara said, her skin turning a darker blue. You do not follow the rules. You do not wait for approval from those who know better. Jack had heard this same speech dozens of times. The Galactic Council had rules for everything. Rules about which planets humans could visit. Rules about which aliens they could talk to. Rules about what technology they could use. Rules about how fast they could grow and build new colonies. The quantum crystal systems must remain under council control, said another alien, this one looking like a tree with eyes. These resources are too important for inexperienced species. Jack knew about the quantum crystals. They were special rocks that could make spaceships go faster and computers work better. Humans had found some on their worlds, but the council said they could not use them. Only the older alien species were smart enough to handle such powerful things. We have used crystals safely for 50 years, Dr. Stone said quietly. It was the first time he had spoken all day. 50 years is nothing. Vexthara laughed, but it was not a happy sound. We have used them for thousands of years. You are like children playing with fire. Jack felt something break inside his chest. Not his heart, but something deeper. His hope, maybe, or his faith that these talks could ever work. He had come here believing that different species could work together. He had thought that aliens and humans could be friends, could help each other explore the galaxy and make it a better place. But these aliens did not want friends. They wanted servants. So this is your final offer? Jack asked, holding up the papers. 12 worlds. No expansion, no exploration, no growth. Humans stay in their small corner of space and do what they are told. It is generous, Vexithera said. Many on the council wanted to give you only 6 worlds. Jack looked around. The room had all the alien faces. Some looked angry, some looked bored. None of them looked like they cared about humans at all. These creatures had built a great civilization among the stars, but they had forgotten what it felt like to dream of something bigger. He stood up slowly, his chair making a small sound as it slid back. Lisa and Dr. Stone looked surprised, but they watched him carefully. We came here hoping to join something great, Jack said, his voice carrying clearly through the huge room. We wanted to be part of a galactic community. We wanted to share what we know and learn from all of you. The aliens were listening now, their strange eyes focused on him. But you do not want partners, Jack continued. You want us to stay small and quiet and grateful for whatever scraps you throw us. You want us to forget that humans have always looked up at the stars and dreamed of touching them. He picked up his papers and held them for a moment, then let them fall to the floor. The sound they made was very small in the big room, but everyone heard it. The United Earth Federation rejects your offer, Jack said. We will find our own way among the stars. Vexithera's skin turned bright red with anger. You cannot survive without the Council. You need our trade routes. You need our technology. You need our protection. Jack smiled, but it was not a happy smile. We survived just fine before we met you. We will survive just fine after we leave. He turned and walked toward the door. Lisa and Dr. Stone followed him, their footsteps echoing. In the sudden silence, behind them, aliens began talking all at once, their voices mixing into a loud, confused noise. Jack did not look back. He had made his choice, and there was no going back now. Humans would make their own path among the stars no matter what it cost them. The door closed behind them with a soft sound, but Jack knew it was really the sound of everything changing forever. 3 weeks after the humans walked out of the talks, Captain Ryan Brooks was having the best day of his life. His ship, the UES Horizon, floated near a giant metal structure in empty space. The thing was huge, bigger than any city on Earth, and it was older than anything humans had ever found. Amy, are you seeing this? Ryan called to Dr. Amy Clark, who was bent over her computer screen in the ship's small research room. Amy looked up, her face glowing with excitement. Ryan, this thing is at least 50,000 years old. Maybe older. I have never seen technology like this. The structure looked like someone had built a metal mountain and threw it into space. It had strange symbols carved all over it, and parts of it still glowed with a soft blue light even after all these years. Ryan had found it by accident while exploring a star system that the Galactic Council had marked as empty and worthless. The Council was wrong about a lot of things, it seemed. Can we get inside? Ryan asked. Amy nodded quickly. There is an opening on the north side. It looks like a docking port, but the design is completely different from anything the Council species use. Ryan smiled. Ever since Ambassador Murphy had walked out of those talks, humans had been free to explore wherever they wanted. No more asking permission, no more waiting for approval, no more being told that certain areas of space were off limits to young species. The Horizon docked with the ancient structure, and Ryan felt a small shiver of excitement as the airlocks connected. Amy grabbed her equipment and followed him through the tunnel into the alien artifact. Inside, the walls were covered with strange writing and pictures that seemed to move in the light. Amy immediately started taking photos while Ryan explored the corridors. The place felt different from council buildings. Where council structures were all sharp angles and cold metal, this place felt warm and welcoming, like it had been built by people who actually cared about the beings who would use it. Ryan, you need to see this, Amy called from a large room at the center of the structure. Ryan found her standing in front of a wall covered with glowing symbols. When he got closer, the symbols changed, shifting into words he could read. Welcome, seekers of knowledge, the wall said in perfect English. We are the predecessors. We built the pathways between the stars. We give this gift to those who dare to explore. Amy's hands were shaking as she held her scanner. Ryan, this is a database, a complete record of technology that makes everything the Council uses look like stone tools. The wall began showing them pictures and diagrams. Faster spaceships, better, computers, ways to make food grow on planets that seemed impossible to live on, medicine that could cure diseases that killed millions, energy sources that could power entire solar systems. Why did the Council never find this place? Ryan asked. Amy studied her readings. Because they only explore systems that their computers say are valuable. This system has no rare metals, no habitable planets, nothing their surveys marked as important. They never bothered to look closer. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Director Kate Sullivan was looking at reports that made her smile. In the 3 weeks since the walkout, human colony ships had visited 47 new star systems. Every single one had been marked by the Council as unsuitable for development or lacking strategic value. The humans had found valuable metals. On 12 worlds, discovered 3 new types of plants that could grow food in terrible conditions, and made contact with 4 different alien species that the Council had somehow missed completely. Kate's assistant, Tom Bradley, knocked on her office door. Director, we just got a message from Colony Ship 7. They found something interesting on the planet they are calling New Hope. Kate looked at the message on her screen. Colony Ship 7 had landed on a world that the Council said was too cold and too dry for any useful life. But the human colonists had found underground cities built by a species called the Nexari. These aliens looked like living rocks, and they had been hiding from the Council for thousands of years. They thought the Council would try to control them like they control everyone else, Kate read aloud. So they built their cities deep underground and pretended their world was empty. The Nexari had amazing technology for growing crystals and shaping metal, but they needed help growing food. The human colonists offered to share their farming knowledge, and the Nexari agreed to teach humans their crystal-growing secrets. Kate leaned back in her chair. Tom, send a message to all our colony ships. Tell them to look for signs of hidden civilizations on every world they visit. I think the Council has been missing a lot of things. On the Zephyrian home world, High Counselor Vexithara was not having a good day. Her trade minister had just given her a report that made her skin turn dark purple with worry. The human colonies are offering better prices for everything, Trade Minister Colron said. Our shipping routes go through Council-approved systems. Only, the humans are using direct routes through systems we never bothered to explore. They can move goods faster and cheaper than we can. Vexithara studied the numbers on her screen. 3 smaller alien species had already started buying from human traders instead of Zephyrian merchants. If this continued, the Zephyrian economy would be in serious trouble. Contact the Vrithari and the Pellan governments, she ordered. Tell them we need an emergency council meeting. But when her assistant tried to make the calls, he got surprising news. Both the Vrithari and the Pellans were already in secret talks with human diplomats. They wanted to make their own trade deals. With the Earth colonies, the Krathari were having similar problems. Commander Zigzag had sent 3 ships to raid human supply lines, thinking he could scare them back to the council table. But the human ships had fought back with weapons and tactics the Krathari had never seen before. Worse, 2 of the species the Krathari thought were their allies had refused to help with the raids. The humans are making friends everywhere they go, Zigzag's intelligence officer reported. They share their technology freely. They help solve problems instead of creating rules. Other species like working with them. Even the proud Luminari were starting to worry. Their energy-based society depended on complicated trade agreements with dozens of smaller species. But these species were starting to ask why they needed the Luminari as middlemen when they could trade directly with humans. Back on the ancient structure, Amy made a discovery that changed everything. Deep in the predecessor database, she found files about something called the hyperspace network. According to the records, the pathways that all spaceships used to travel between stars were not natural at all. They had been built by the predecessors long ago. Ryan, look at this, Amy said, her voice full of excitement and worry. The Council has been telling everyone that hyperspace routes are just part of nature, but they are actually artificial. They were built by an ancient civilization. Ryan looked at the technical diagrams Amy was showing him. What does this mean? It means the network needs maintenance. Amy said slowly. And according to these readings, it is not getting it. The whole system is starting to break down. Ryan felt cold despite the warm air in the structure. How long do we have? Amy checked the numbers again. If nothing is done, maybe a year before the whole network starts failing. Ships will get lost between stars. Entire civilizations could be cut off from each other. Ryan looked at the database full of predecessor technology. But we have the repair manual now. Amy nodded slowly. We have the only complete repair manual in the galaxy. The question is, what do we do with it? Outside, the stars continued to shine, unaware that the future of galactic civilization now rested in the hands of the species the Council had tried to cage. 6 months after Ambassador Murphy walked out of the talks, Admiral Susan Price sat in her office reading reports that nobody had expected. The numbers on her screen should have been impossible, but there they were in black and white. Human colonies were not just surviving without the Galactic Council, they were doing better than anyone had dreamed possible. Ben, tell me about Haven 7 again, Susan said to the man on her video screen. Ben Taylor was the colony director for one of their newest settlements, a world the Council had marked as unsuitable for intelligent life. Ben smiled, and Susan could see the satisfaction in his tired face. Admiral, we have 8,000 people here now, and they are all happy. The Nexari helped us build crystal farms that grow food 3 times faster than normal. In return, we taught them how to make better soil and grow surface plants. Susan looked at her notes. The Council said first contact with unknown species requires a minimum of 2 years of observation and committee approval. Well, the Council never met the Nexari, Ben laughed. When we landed, they came up to greet us with gifts of food and beautiful crystals. I invited their leader to dinner that same night. We have been best friends ever since. That was the human advantage, Susan realized. While other species spent years in meetings arguing about what to do, humans just did what felt right and fixed problems later. Dr. Rachel Moore knocked on Susan's office door. Rachel ran the Xenobiology Research Division, and she had been studying the predecessor database that Captain Brooks and Dr. Clark had discovered. Susan, we need to talk, Rachel said, her face serious. I have been working with the ancient database for 3 months now, and I found something important. Susan motioned for Rachel to sit down. What kind of something? The species that built the hyperspace network called themselves the predecessors, but that is not their real name. Their real name translates to something like the builders of roads. They created the hyperspace network about 70,000 years ago. Susan felt a chill run down her back. What happened to them? They disappeared about 40,000 years ago. But before they left, they built maintenance stations all through the network. The Council has been using these stations for thousands of years, but they never knew what they really were. Rachel pulled out a tablet and showed Susan a star map, covered with glowing dots. These red dots are maintenance stations that have stopped working in the last 6 months. The yellow dots are stations that are failing now. The green dots are still working, but barely. Susan counted the dots. There were hundreds of them, scattered all across the galaxy. How many stations have failed completely? 47, Rachel said quietly. And the failures are getting faster. Commander Turner's reports from the hyperspace monitoring stations confirm it. The whole network is breaking down. Susan knew about Commander Alex Turner. He was one of their best pilots, and he had been investigating strange problems with hyperspace travel. Ships were taking longer to make jumps. Some routes that used to work perfectly were becoming dangerous or impossible to use. How long do we have? Susan asked. If the current rate of failure continues, the entire network will collapse within 6 months, maybe less. Susan felt the weight of the galaxy settling on her shoulders. And we are the only ones who know how to fix it? Rachel nodded. The predecessor database contains complete technical manuals for every part of the network. Construction diagrams, repair procedures, even instructions for building new sections. The Council species have been using the network for thousands of years, but they never understood how it actually works. At that same moment on the Zephyrian homeworld, High Counselor Vexithara was learning just how badly things had gone wrong. Her communication minister, Dexara, had just given her news that made her skin turn the pale blue of fear. "We have lost contact with the Kepler colonies," Dexara reported. "The hyperspace route to that sector went dead 3 days ago. 40 million Zephyrians are trapped with no way to get supplies or communication." Vexithara looked at the star map on her office wall. Red marks showed all the trade routes that had failed in the past month. The Zephyrian Empire, which had controlled space lanes for thousands of years, was falling apart. What about the emergency routes through the Veil Nebula? "Those failed yesterday," Dexara said. "Admiral Ketharan's fleet is stranded halfway between the core worlds and the rim territories. They have enough supplies for maybe 2 weeks." On the insectoid world of Krathak Prime, Commander Zixak was having the same conversation with his officers. The Krathari military machine, built on the ability to move troops quickly between star systems, was grinding to a halt as hyperspace routes went dark one by one. "How are the humans managing their supply lines?" Zixak asked his intelligence chief. "That is the strange part, Commander. Human ships are still moving freely. They seem to know which routes are safe and which ones to avoid. Some of our spies report that human vessels are using hyperspace lanes that our computers say should not exist." The Luminary were facing an even worse crisis. Their entire civilization was based on staying connected across dozens of star systems, sharing thoughts and energy through the hyperspace network. As routes failed, parts of their collective consciousness were being cut off, like losing pieces of their minds. Back on Earth, Admiral Price was meeting with the Colonial Defense Command. The room was full of military officers and scientists, all trying to understand what humanity's role should be in the growing galactic crisis. "The question is simple," said General Paul Wright, chairman of the Defense Command. "Do we help the species that tried to cage us, or do we let galactic civilization collapse?" "It is not that simple," argued Dr. Stone, who had been part of the original delegation with Ambassador Murphy. "If the hyperspace network fails completely, billions of beings will die. Entire worlds will be cut off from food and medical supplies." Captain Lisa Park, recently promoted to lead the new Stellar Engineering Corps, stood up to address the room. "I have been studying the predecessor repair manuals with Dr. Moore's team. We can fix the network, but it will require completely changing how it operates." Admiral Price looked at Lisa with interest. "What kind of changes?" "The Council has been treating the network like a resource to be rationed and controlled. But the predecessors designed it to grow and adapt. The more it is used, the stronger it becomes. The Council's restrictions have been slowly killing it." Lisa activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. "If we repair the network the way the predecessors intended, we will need to remove all the artificial barriers the Council put in place. Free travel for everyone. No more restricted systems. No more asking permission to explore." General Wright frowned. "That would mean giving up any advantage we have." "No," Lisa said firmly. "It would mean building the kind of galaxy humans actually want to live in. One where people work together instead of fighting over scraps." Admiral Price looked around the room at the faces of Earth's military and scientific leaders. These people had spent their whole careers preparing to defend humanity against alien threats. Now they were being asked to save the same aliens who had tried to limit human growth. "There is something else to consider," Dr. Moore said quietly. "The predecessor database contains warnings about what happens when the network fails completely. It is not just a matter of losing communication and trade." "What kind of warnings?" Admiral Price asked. "Hyperspace collapse creates gravitational waves that can destroy entire star systems. If the network fails all at once, it could trigger a chain reaction that makes large parts of the galaxy uninhabitable." The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. They were not just talking about the collapse of galactic civilization. They were talking about the possible destruction of countless worlds and the deaths of trillions of beings. Admiral Price stood up slowly. "Then we do not really have a choice, do we? We fix the network, or everyone dies." She looked around the Yale room at the officers and scientists who would have to make this happen. "The question is whether the Council species will accept our help, or if they are too proud to admit they need the humans they tried to cage." Outside the windows of the command center, Earth's orbital shipyards were busy building vessels unlike anything humans had ever made before. Using predecessor technology, they were creating ships that could repair and maintain the hyperspace network, ships that could save galactic civilization if the galaxy would let them. 1 year after Ambassador Jack Murphy walked out of the Galactic Council talks, he found himself sitting in the same chair in the same room. But this time, everything was different. High Counselor Vex Thera sat across from him, but she no longer looked like the proud leader who had tried to cage humanity. Her skin was pale gray, the color of defeat, and her hands shook as she spoke. "Ambassador Murphy," she said, her musical voice now quiet and broken. "We need your help." Jack looked around the room at the alien representatives. The Krathari commander, Zixak, kept his many eyes focused on the table, too ashamed to look at the humans. The Luminari barely glowed at all, their light dim and flickering like dying candles. Even the tree-like Dendari looked withered, their leaves brown and falling. "Tell me what happened," Jack said simply. Vexathera took a deep breath. "The hyperspace network is failing everywhere. We have lost contact with 60% of our colonies. Trade has stopped completely. Our ships are stranded in deep space, with no way to get home." Commander Zixak finally looked up. "3 of our core worlds have run out of food. Without supply ships, millions of Krathari will starve within weeks." One of the Luminari spoke, its voice barely a whisper. "Our consciousness is breaking apart. We are losing pieces of ourselves as each route goes dark. Soon we will not be the Luminari anymore. We will just be scattered lights in empty space." Jack listened to each species describe their growing disasters. The mighty Galactic Council, which had ruled space for thousands of years, was falling apart in just 12 months. "How many people have died?" Jack asked quietly. 17 billion so far," Vexathera said, her voice breaking. "Entire worlds cut off from medical supplies. Ships lost in hyperspace when routes collapsed while they were traveling. Colony worlds where people froze to death when their power systems failed and no repair ships could reach them." Jack felt the weight of those numbers. 17 billion lives lost because the Council had been too proud and too stupid to maintain the network that kept their civilization alive. "We know you have the predecessor database," Vexathara continued. "We know you understand how to repair the network. Please, Ambassador Murphy, we are begging you to help us." Jack looked at the aliens who had once treated humans like dangerous children. These same beings had tried to lock humanity in a tiny corner of space. They had said humans were too young, too reckless, too stupid to be trusted with real power. "What are you offering in return?" Jack asked. Vexathera looked confused. "Offering? We thought, what do you want?" Jack smiled, but it was not a cruel smile. "I want to know if you learned anything from this disaster." At that moment, Admiral Lisa Park walked into the room. She had been promoted again and now led humanity's Stellar Engineering Corps, the group responsible for fixing the galaxy's broken infrastructure. Behind her came Dr. Helen Ross, humanity's new Director of Galactic Affairs. "The repair work has already begun," Lisa announced. "Human engineering teams are working in 47 star systems right now, rebuilding the network stations that keep hyperspace routes stable." Vexathera's skin flickered with hope. "Then you will help us?" "We are already helping you," Dr. Ross said calmly. "But we are not doing it the way the Council would have done it." She activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy. Green lights marked the hyperspace routes that human teams had already repaired. Yellow lights showed routes currently being worked on. Red lights showed the routes that were still broken. The old network was designed to limit travel and control trade, Dr. Ross explained. The Council used it to make sure only approved species could reach certain areas of space. But that is not how the predecessors meant for it to work. Lisa pointed to the display. "We are rebuilding the network the right way. Open access for everyone. No restricted routes. No permission required to explore new areas. The more the network gets used, the stronger it becomes." Commander Zixak looked worried. "But without controls, without rules, there will be chaos. Younger species will go anywhere they want. They will take resources without asking. They will start wars. Jack laughed, and the sound echoed in the big room. Commander, your controlled system just killed 17 billion people and nearly destroyed galactic civilization. How much worse could chaos be? The new system requires cooperation instead of control, Dr. Ross said. Species will have to work together to maintain the network. Everyone benefits when everyone helps. She showed them images from human colonies where different species were working side by side. Zephyrians and humans building new hyperspace stations together. Crethari and Nexari sharing technology to make better ships. Even some young Luminari learning to exist as individuals while still being part of their larger consciousness. This is what we found when we stopped asking permission and started exploring, Lisa said. The galaxy is full of species that the Council never bothered to discover. Peaceful beings who were hiding because they were afraid of being controlled. Civilizations that developed amazing technology but kept it secret because they did not want the Council to take it away from them. Vexathara looked at the images with wonder. How many? At least 200 species that the Council never knew existed, Dr. Ross said. And they all want to be part of building something better. Jack stood up and walked to the big window that showed the stars outside. The old Council system was based on fear. Fear that younger species would take too much. Fear that someone else might become more powerful. Fear that change would destroy everything. He turned back to face the alien representatives. But fear is what almost destroyed everything. The Council was so busy protecting their power that they forgot to maintain the thing that kept everyone alive. What happens now? Vexathara asked. Dr. Ross opened a folder and placed documents on the table. The Terran Accords, a new agreement for how the galaxy will work. Humans will maintain the hyperspace network and mediate disputes between species. In return, everyone gets free access to travel and trade throughout the galaxy. But what about our governments? Commander Zigzag asked. What about our empires? You can keep your governments, Jack said, but they will have to learn to cooperate instead of control. No more restricting other species. No more claiming entire sectors of space as private property. No more treating younger civilizations like children. Admiral Park walked to another window where they could see the construction yards outside the station. Huge ships were being built, unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen before. Human designs mixed with predecessor technology and improvements from dozens of different species. Those ships will carry mixed crews, Lisa said. Humans, Zephyrians, Nexari, Crethari, everyone working together. They will explore parts of the galaxy that no one has ever seen before. They will make sure the network stays healthy and help any species that needs assistance. Vexathara looked at the documents on the table. The Terran Accords would end the Galactic Council's control over space travel. It would give every species equal rights to explore and build new colonies. It would create a galaxy where cooperation was voluntary, not forced. And if we refuse? She asked quietly. Jack sat back down across from her. Then you can try to fix the network yourselves. But the human teams will still keep working to help the species that want to be part of the new system. We will not let billions more people die because their leaders are too proud to change. The room was quiet for a long time. Outside the windows, stars sparkled in the darkness, waiting for explorers to visit them. Somewhere in that vast space, ships full of humans and aliens were working together to rebuild the pathways between worlds. Finally, Vexathara picked up a pen and signed the Terran Accords. One by one, the other alien representatives did the same. Welcome to the new galaxy, Jack said with a genuine smile. A place where anyone can reach for the stars. As the meeting ended and everyone prepared to leave, Dr. Ross looked out at the construction yards where the future was taking shape. The Council had tried to cage humanity because they were afraid of human ambition and curiosity. But when humans walked out of those talks, they had not just rejected the Council's limits. They had taken the first step toward building something that no one had ever imagined, a galaxy where the greatest adventures were still waiting among the stars.